police officers have their work cut out for them. Sometimes their work can make them feel like they're living in a horror movie as they find themselves facing incredible and unbelievable cases. Officers often have to think fast to come up with a resolution or solution to an out-of-the-ordinary and unusual case. It could be anything from an absurd prank call to a hostage situation, and they must be prepared for any and all kinds of challenges. Even when the hardest cases have been solved, every police officer is familiar with the feeling that the most unbelievable stories probably haven't even been heard of yet. The police were completely stumped by how this old ship had suddenly shown up at a beach in the Bahamas. It supposedly sunk in the Bermuda Triangle 90 years ago, but there was no sign it ever got underwater. Everything about this ship was a mystery to the cops, at least until they managed to make their way inside, because what they found below the deck made everything clear to them. The police were very careful when exploring the ship. If something is moved or tampered with, the chain of evidence and criminal investigation could be disturbed. The best thing was to just leave for now and wait for the detectives. But they were hearing sounds that simply had to be checked out. As they were searching, they eventually managed to pin down the room where the noise was coming from. But when the first officer saw what was inside the room, he nearly dropped his weapon out of pure shock. How was this even possible? But how had this old ship made its way to a Bahama beach? What did the police find inside, and how did it shock them so much? The first guests on the Bahama beach were still looking at the sea in complete disbelief. The size and condition of the vessel further astounded them, as if it had been at sea untouched for decades. This mysterious event quickly fired up people's imaginations and spurred curiosity as to what could have led to the ship's sudden appearance. The sight of the ship was enough to stir curiosity in each of them, since none of them had ever seen anything like it before. The police started driving in the direction of the beach full throttle and with their sirens blaring. But they were quickly stopped in their tracks, as they were clearly not the only people heading to the beach today. With the help of the police's reinforcements, they began moving the crowd away from the ship, emphasizing the need for their own safety and stressing that the beach is not currently suitable for recreational activities. All the while, they had no idea if the ship posed a threat or if it was an unfamiliar lost passenger. The police took the measure of blocking the roads that ran to the beach and issuing a warning that anybody marching down that road would be arrested to ensure everyone was safe. The police also issued a curfew so people wouldn't stroll down to the beach as they please. The police had to increase the number of officers and impose a strict no-entry policy in order to keep these troublemakers away. Tourists had already started climbing the ship, and a couple was even already walking around on it. The officer not flying the chopper quickly grabbed a megaphone and started shouting down that everybody needed to get the hell out of there, otherwise they would get arrested. But some people paid no attention to this warning, and some were even seen making their way to the ship, attempting to board it. Many of those present were disgruntled with the new restrictions, but the cops had no choice but to remain firm. They had to set limits for safety reasons until they could determine what the ship on their beach was all about. And that warning seemed to work wonders. People quickly started to retreat from the beach, and people who were climbing or exploring the ship jumped into the sea and headed to shore. But from there, the officers could not verify that everybody had listened to them. Some people still did not follow proper instructions. When most people had cleared out of the beach, the chopper started its descent. Most people were, however, still lined up on the edge of the sand as they could not contain their curiosity, and the chopper coming down blasted a wave of sand in their faces that probably none of them saw coming. As the cops stepped on board the ship, the crowd watched in amazement. The officers gathered there pointed out the rusty hull, but also remarked on how well kept the boat appeared to be. How would this trawler survive for so long in such pristine condition? It was almost like some sort of time capsule or a remnant of a bygone era. Was it from East Germany, or maybe a distant relative of a previous fishing trip? The puzzle of the old boat was just beginning, and none of the officers wanted to make the first move. The ship was a true time capsule in the middle of the ocean, revealing a part of history that had been forgotten. The ship was a mystery that begged to be solved. They set out to determine the true identity of the vessel. By the looks of it, this ship had been used to transport passengers, and this was immediately a great help in helping them discover where it came from. There were only a select group of companies that ever had passenger ships of this size, and decades ago, there were even fewer of them. The police managed to track down registration numbers and other identifying features from past records and look into the activities of any known companies that may have owned the vessel. They examined various sources of photographic evidence to gain an understanding of where it traveled and who was on board. By looking into potential duplicate ships in existence, they were also able to track down the whereabouts of the original ship more easily. They also verified port of origin information that was found on the manifest and inspected maintenance records to establish dates of manufacture and determine who took ownership of the vessel. So while a couple of the officers made their way toward the ship to go and check it out, one started behind to make a couple of calls in an attempt to figure out what kind of ship this was. Apparently, the officers were correct in their assessment that this was an old passenger ship, but according to the person who knew it, it should have been at the bottom of the sea mile and mile away from here because this ship had sunk in 90 years ago in the infamous Bermuda Triangle. The police officers were instantly stunned as they had heard countless stories of ships and crews getting lost in the mysterious Bermuda Triangle, never to return. The officers quickly realized that the only way to solve this puzzle was to launch a full investigation, both of the ship itself and the potential culprits responsible for its sudden reappearance. The Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle, is an area located in the northwestern Atlantic Ocean, situated between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. This infamous region is notorious for an alarmingly high number of unexplained disappearances and paranormal phenomena, which have been attributed to supernatural occurrences. The area's legend began in the early 1950s when reports emerged of ships and planes inexplicably vanishing within or near the triangle, with no survivors or remains ever found. Over the years, a variety of theories have been put forth in an attempt to explain the Bermuda Triangle's strange happenings. Some claim the disappearances are caused by powerful ocean currents, while others believe aliens are involved. Many others doubt the validity of these theories and attribute the disappearances and phenomena to natural disasters such as hurricanes, earthquakes, and rogue waves. But whatever the cause may be, the Bermuda Triangle continues to fascinate and capture the attention of people all around the world. The mystery surrounding the Bermuda Triangle only adds to its allure, as it has intrigued people for years and sparked the imaginations of those who ponder its secrets. It has inspired movies, books, and documentaries, offering a constant source of entertainment. In some ways, this mysterious triangular region of the Atlantic serves as an example of how people are fascinated by the unknown, reminding us of the world's magnificence and power. Stories around the phenomenon of the Bermuda Triangle and its secrets have been passed down through generations, adding to its legend and mystery. Numerous vessels and aircraft have disappeared from its dangerous waters without a trace, and many theories have been put forward to explain the disappearances. This has been one of the most iconic and mysterious stories about the Bermuda Triangle. On December 5, 1945, a group of 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers known as Flight 19 set out for a training mission but mysteriously disappeared without a trace. The planes were led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor, and the other members of the crew were Lieutenant Robert Cook, Ian's George Jones, Ian's Earl Koenig, and 4 other enlisted men. Neither the planes nor any remains of the crew were ever found. Conspiracy theories suggest the planes may have encountered some kind of supernatural event which caused them to vanish, but no definitive explanation has been given. Theories about what happened to Flight 19 have ranged from freak weather conditions that caused a mysterious spatial displacement to alien abduction to a rift in the fabric of time created by the area's powerful electromagnetic forces. Some speculation has included a possible entry into another dimension, a sudden and powerful magnetic force capable of destroying the aircraft, and even a secret military experiment gone wrong. More recently, some have postulated that the planes were attacked by a UFO or perhaps had been intercepted by a rogue military operation. Whatever the true cause of the occurrences, the legend of Flight 19 remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. In January of 1948, a luxurious British South American Airways Avro Tudor 4-passenger airliner known as Star Tiger disappeared mysteriously en route to Bermuda. The plane was carrying 25 passengers and crew, and was reported to have vanished somewhere within the curve of the so-called Devil's Triangle. Theories regarding the disappearance include a possible instrument malfunction, which caused the plane to fly off course and crash. It was also suggested that there might have been a mid-air explosion or the sudden appearance of a powerful electromagnetic field which disabled the craft's navigational systems. In March of 1918, the USS Cyclops, a 542-foot-long cargo ship with a crew of 306, disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle while on a journey from the Caribbean to Baltimore, Maryland. The ship had loaded up on fuel from Barbados and sent out an SOS signal on March 3rd before falling off the radar. One of the mysteries surrounding the disappearance is the fact that the ship had made successful trips through the area in the past without any reported incidents. Despite a thorough search, the wreckage of the USS Cyclops has never been found, leaving behind one of the biggest mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. The officer looked at the ship again and even sent a picture to the expert that had revealed this bizarre information to him. This did not look like a ship that had been on the seafloor for 90 years. It was impossible that a 90-year-old ship could have been in such good condition. What made it even more confounding was that he hadn't found a single person on board who had been steering it during all these years. Surprisingly, once they took a closer look, the officers could see that all of the external components were still intact and weathered, but otherwise in surprisingly good condition. But when they tried to explore more, they quickly noticed that there was something strange going on the ship. They could easily walk around on all the upper floors, but seemingly all the entrances to the lower deck were closed off. The police officers were mindful of the fact that someone or something else could be aboard the ship, aside from them. Most of the doors to the lower deck looked in a lot better condition than the rest of the ship and were sealed off extremely well. After a few moments of debating, the officers decided to prepare for the worst, that whatever resided inside was far, far worse than they could handle. But they did get the feeling that there was already something inside of there. The officers began to question what they were up against. The officers drew their weapons and stood guard, alert to any sudden movement. They slowly started to inch closer to the door until one of them stepped forward and knocked. They waited for an answer in silence, the only sound being the eerie creak of the ship. When they eventually managed to make their way in, they learned that the boat had actually been transformed into a very nice home. The officers were surprised to find that the small boat had been completely refurbished to appear like a normal house. The walls were freshly painted with neutral-toned colors, and modern furniture was arranged in an orderly fashion. The officers exclaimed and marveled at the sight before them. It was definitely a functional living space, complete with comfortable bedding, footstools, and a cozy armchair placed by a window that overlooked the sea. There was even a separate dining room furnished with an antique-style table and chairs. As it turned out, the ship had never sunk in the first place, and the captain had just hidden the boat on a small island where he wanted to start living. The reason it had ended up here was that the boat had gotten dislodged at the island and had floated along with the current to this beach.